Hello! A little bit of a different style video today, more vloggy. Everything's gonna go alright? No jump cuts? Where was I? Here's the thing, we have a gaming table. This table right here. And we're gonna talk about it today. Now, the thing about gaming tables is that we never had one, even though a few times we were offered one by people who make gaming tables, and we always very politely refused, because the philosophy is that there's no philosophy really. We live near London and rent is really expensive and our apartment is really small. And I don't know if you've seen gaming tables, but those things are huge. There's no way we're gonna fit it into this tiny apartment. I mean, even if we fit it into this tiny apartment, we still have to fit all these like lights and gear around the table and tripods and people. Sometimes we even fit people around the table, you know, to like play games or whatever. Basically, they're huge, and it's never been something we really wanted, and also because it kind of always felt, you know, isn't it a little bit indulgent? Isn't it like, oh, look at me, I'm a board game reviewer, and someone sent me this fancy table that costs thousands of pounds, right? And it's sort of the wrong aspirational message to send. So when Geek and Son said, hey, we want to give you a table, I was like, listen, thank you. No, I think we had this conversation once already. But then they said, no, wait a minute. We know you have a small place. We have a new line of tables, and those tables are A, cheap, and I was like, ooh, and B, they're smaller. And I'm like, ooh, right? Okay, so an affordable gaming table. So it doesn't feel show-offy, right? So that feels nice. And also, it fits into this apartment. That's two reasons that immediately made me go, do you know what? Yeah, we'll have your table. And obviously, the obligation of getting a table from a table maker is that you have to review a table, which if you think about it is kind of ludicrous because we're not table reviewers, we're board game reviewers. And the table, so this table still costs £350. So it's not like, you know, we got a thing for free that costs £350. But you know what? I'm pretty happy that we got it. And I am pretty happy, even though, okay, this is technically not an advert, we've not been sponsored, we've not been paid, but I'm pretty happy to sort of endorse it, I guess, if that's the right word, because it feels right. It feels like a good fit for many practical reasons. And I think those practical reasons, even though they're quite exclusive to us, are gonna carry over well to you, potentially. Okay, so why does this work for us? Well, actually, it's really rather simple. So, first thing, as you might have noticed, there's a game set up on this table. This game is called PAX Premier, 2nd edition. The reason it's set up on this table is because we are reviewing it. And there's a lot of work to be done. Filming doesn't normally happen in just like a day. It's a multi-day process, so we have to set it up, tear it down, set it up, tear it down. And sometimes, in between when we film, believe it or not, as board game reviewers, we like to play games. And one thing that really bugs us is having to tear down and then set up another game, play that game, tear that game down, then set up the first game that we're not going to play. And do you know what? Nothing feels quite as frustrating as setting up a game you were never going to play. It is possibly one of the most depressing things ever. It's like those toys that got lost and, you know, and then no one ever plays with them anymore. It's kind of that. It's that feeling. But there's something a little bit more about having a gaming table that I haven't quite realized until I have had it. But to show that, I have to tear this game down, which is going to take me a while, so just bear with me. So there's this latch, and you have to push it up. Let me show you. And that lets you take out this thing. No biggie, I can do this with holding the camera and this thing in my arm at the same time. It's totally doable, don't worry about it. This isn't awkward. I don't need to edit this out. I've deliberately might have set up Gloomhaven here because, look, if there's one game that you want to have permanently set up in your living room and also at the same time keep it visible out of sight, this game would definitely have to be that game that you set up and then visibly keep out of sight. But you know, honestly, I thought that the practicality of this table is what's going to sell me on it. But actually, it is the experience of playing the game with this sort of groove. And there's something special that happens when you play a game that's, what's the opposite of elevated? That thing. Yeah. So what happens when you play a game with this sort of you looking down is that the conversation is still happening, you're still engaging with everyone at the table, but everyone's focal point is centered on the game, and therefore the game becomes the center of everyone's attention, more so than playing the game normally on just a flat surface. I don't know, I don't want to call it like some sort of board game table magic, because that sounds like I'm chilling this table too much, but there is something about this experience that ultimately just makes it feel different than playing a game on a regular table. And I come to have really like it. Now, having said all of that, being a reviewer, I feel obligated to say that I've also found some downsides to having this particular table. So here's the thing. First of all, it's cheap. Yes, we established that. It's £350. But with that comes also the downgrading quality. So normally those luxurious gaming tables that you see, they're made out of real hardwood, whereas this here is chipboard. And not only is it chipboard, but also it comes flat packed, so you will have to assemble it yourself IKEA style. And there's another thing that I thought, this could have been done a little bit better, and that's not just the logo that's pretty much glued to this table. You would literally have to scrape it off with the chipboard coming off, so you probably don't want to do that. But ultimately, we're actually not going to keep this table because, surprise, we found out it's too small for us. But I know the whole point of having this table was because it is smaller. But something you learn as a board game reviewer is that you need a very big table because you have a diverse range of games that need to be played with a diverse player count, and some games take up a lot of space, and this table was just not big enough. That doesn't mean it's not big enough for you, because if you're playing games primarily with 2 players, then this is actually perfect. I could fit a 2-player game of Gloomhaven into this divot, and if I put the lid on top, then it would be very comfortable. So that's fine, that's okay. It's just that we play with more people and we play sometimes larger games and they need more space. And Geek & Son have kindly offered to replace this with the Moby Geek City XL or whatever it's called. It's the £100 more expensive, but it's a bigger size. So there's basically 2 ranges. If you want a smaller one, you can get a smaller one. If you need the bigger one, you can get the bigger one. And we're gonna keep the bigger one. I hope you enjoyed me being very desperately awkward after receiving a very expensive thing and trying to make it sound like, hey, I'm being sincere. I am being sincere. It's just, it turns out that when you get an expensive thing and you're trying to be sincere, even though you are sincere, the sincereness comes across very difficultly. That was an interesting experience for me. If you've never seen one of our videos before, boy are they normally different than this. We do board game reviews, they're very good. Please check them out, hit the subscribe button. Very soon we're gonna have a review of PAX Premier 2nd edition. Stick around for that. We love you very much. Bye bye. Tables.